Thank you all for coming. We have a wonderful selection of speakers today and some more speakers tomorrow. You guys all have the programs. It is my distinct honor to introduce the first speaker for the conference. Her name is Elizabeth Walter. Some of you may know her. She is an author, a speaker, a former art teacher, and now she has kids and they do arts, and she was telling me a little bit about it before. And just on a personal note, I was the faculty liaison in charge of helping Ann Morrison and the other students put together the movie that you guys will see tomorrow night. And Elizabeth Walter and I have just met today, but over the last 6 months we've spent so much time in the editing room listening to interview footage that I feel like I kind of know her, even though she's standing right here and we've never met before. So anyway, so it is my honor to introduce the American Legion Auxiliary of the Year award recipient and wonderful speaker, Elizabeth Walter.
Thank you. I see a lot of familiar faces here, and a lot of you know me from other places, but I don't think very many of you have ever heard me speak. I started down this road in 1989 in November. I was getting closer to my 50th birthday, and I realized that I was not going to be living forever. So I decided that if my generation does not put our experiences on paper, it will be forgotten. That's when I decided to write my story. I had never written anything before because I am, first of all, an artist. I have drawn all my life. Art has been a part of my world. When I was in concentration camp, I only had a stick in the dirt, and that was my paper. And I remember always drawing. So that fall, how do you write a book? I didn't know how to write a book. I hated writing letters because, first of all, I can't spell. I'm very bad. So there's a junior college, Harper Junior College. I decided, why not? So I took a creative writing course, and that's how I started my road down the author lane. Now, it was only an 8-week course, and it was already the 7th week, and I still hadn't written anything. So that week, the teacher said, I will give you from 8 or 9 famous books the first sentence. I won't tell you what they are. And you take that sentence, what hits you right, and you make it your own. So she read one after the other, and then she came to this sentence. The thing I well remember is a large meadow. And it clicked. And that's the very beginning of my book. And I later on found out this was from the book Black Beauty. So this started me writing, and when I started writing that first chapter, that first page, it flowed out of me like somebody uncorked the dam. And I got memories back as a child that I went through, every day something new. I was born in 1940, so when I was put in concentration camp, I wasn't even 5 yet. And we were there until the fall of 1947, when I was 7½. And I'd like to read the very first beginning of my book. And I almost called the book Poppies, but I was informed I better not because my people might think it's about dope. The thing I well remember is a large meadow filled with poppies, a sea of red flowers as far as my eyes could see. The wind danced among them, making them come alive. I wanted to be with the poppies. I wanted to pick them and be just as free as the wind. But a barbed wire fence imprisoned me within the yard of the concentration camp. No flowers grew here. Too many people had trampled the ground. Beneath my bare feet, not even weeds had much of a chance to grow. I remember mostly playing in back of the yard. I stayed away from the partisaner who guarded the entrance gate of the camp. Their dark eyes and mustache faces frightened me. Their long bayonets stuck up from behind them as if they grew out of their bodies. If they looked my way, I ran further back into the camp yard. I was afraid they would come and get me as they did that night when we came to this terrible place. It happened so quickly. All my life I had been surrounded with the warmth and love of my family, and within a wink of an eye, my life had been turned into a nightmare. We were tossed about, churning in a sea of turmoil and upheaval. Life as my people had known it was slashed from its roots and tossed into the fire. Near the end of the war, all over Yugoslavia, Schwabos, as we were called by our non-German neighbors, were rounded up by the communist government of Marshal Tito. Let me tell you how it happened to my family. When I wrote this what I just read to you has not changed. But what is in the book has been written, rewritten, and when I started out this journey, I didn't know that this is what authors do, that it gets rewritten and written again. And finally, I finished the book. I thought I finished the book in 1992. And I got, I wrote a little, the Chicago Tribune had, in the editorial, had in there saying, it is rumored that there is a turmoil going on in Yugoslavia and that people are being put into concentration camps. And I wrote back, and they actually published it, saying that you better believe it, it's not just a rumor, it happened before. And there, with that little excerpt, Alfred Desaias got a hold of this, and he called me and he interviewed me, and it ended up in his book, The Terrible Revenge. Now, the town I was born in was a town of 4,000 people. My mother was a seamstress. My father was a cabinet maker. We lived with my grandparents. This was the norm, like in most Donauschwaben villages. We all spoke German. The neighboring town was Nicolenz. They all spoke Romanian. But my father, being a cabinet maker, he did furniture for them. They came to our town, and most people also spoke Romanian for that reason. They all spoke Serbian, but as children, we all spoke German because you did not learn the Serbian language until you went to school. So my story is a story about a family, and I tell it as a small child. The most important thing I want to convey here is that if it hadn't been for our mothers, for our aunts, for our grandmothers, a lot of us would not be here, because they are the ones that helped us survive the terrible hunger, and by begging, stealing, whatever they could do to provide food. I'd like to read also what it was like that night when they came and got us. It happened in April in 1945. I was fast asleep in Mommy's bed. Tati was not with us anymore. Mommy, Seppi, and I slept in the bedroom. Mutter, my grandmother, in the other room by herself. The shock of the bright lights and men's voices startled me awake. Quickly I sat up, clinging tightly to my tuchet, my feather coverlet. There by the bedroom door stood 3 partisaners, their large guns with long knives on the end pointing straight at us. Dark, foreboding eyes glistening from behind the black, bushy brows and mustached faces. Shouting in Serbian, they started towards my mother, who was standing at the foot of our bed. I watched in horror as they pulled at Mommy's hands. What were they doing? They were hurting Mommy. I